Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're stepping completely away from the endless, exhausting noise of our modern world to embark on a truly unique spiritual journey. We're going to explore the opening verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, as you probably know, this is the longest chapter in the Islamic tradition. But don't worry, we aren't going to get bogged down in heavy academic jargon here. Instead, we're looking at this text purely through the lens of inner peace. We want to discover how words spoken literally 14 centuries ago can offer absolutely practical, grounding wisdom for our incredibly chaotic lives today. So, take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin.
Alif, Lam, Mim. Those three Arabic letters make for a strikingly mysterious opening, don't they? It's literally just letters. And here's the wild part. To this day, no human knows their precise meaning. And you know what? That is entirely by design. Think about it. Most authors begin their books by trying to prove exactly what they know, right? But this text, it essentially forces us to check our egos right at the door. It's a profound reminder that true wisdom actually begins in humility. It's about recognizing right from the jump that we just don't have all the answers.
Okay, let's dive into this historical transition. Because to really understand this text, we've got to step back in time for a second. Back in 610 CE, the early revelations in Mecca were intensely focused on the internal. Building up that individual core faith. But then, jump to 622 CE, the early Muslims migrate to Medina. This is a massive shift. They're no longer practicing in secret, they're actively transitioning into a unified public society. And Surah Al-Baqarah, it was revealed right at this pivotal turning point. It acts as this incredible bridge, taking that deep internal faith and weaving it directly into the fabric of a functioning, healthy community.
And that brings us to this idea of a foundation without doubt. The text states it serves as a direct, unwavering beacon for humanity. This is the book about which there is no doubt. Now think about our modern world for a second. We are constantly overwhelmed by shifting opinions, endless feeds, fake news, and just anxiety, right? Amidst all that chaos, this verse offers something incredibly rare, absolute certainty. It's practically inviting you to just rest your weary mind, presenting itself as a solid, unshakable foundation that you can safely build your entire life upon.
So the text says this guidance is specifically for the muttaqin. Now, while you'll sometimes see this translated as the God-fearing, a much more beautiful and frankly accurate understanding is those who are mindful. Actually, let's really clarify that. It is absolutely not about living in a state of terror or just mindlessly following some rigid checklist of rules. No way. Being among the muttaqin means living in a constant, peaceful state of awareness. It's about being deeply conscious of the divine presence in literally every interaction, every choice, and every single quiet moment of your day.
And what's fascinating is how this internal mindfulness immediately flows right into physical action. Notice the beautiful, perfectly struck balance here. It starts internally with believing in the unseen, but it absolutely doesn't stay trapped in your head. It immediately moves outward to establishing regular prayer, to connect with the Creator, and then to spending charitably from what you've been provided to connect with creation. It's this beautiful cycle where your inner peace directly fuels the tangible, real-world good that you put out into the world.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this concept of al-ghaib, or the unseen. It is so countercultural for us today. I mean, we live in this hyper-materialistic society, right? The mindset is basically, if we can't measure it or hold it, it isn't real. But this text asks us to do the exact opposite. It asks us to find profound comfort in what we cannot see. Because honestly, the absolute most beautiful things in the human experience, love, true inner peace, the human soul itself, and of course, the divine reality, they all belong entirely to the unseen. Trusting in this is kind of the ultimate antidote to modern anxiety, because it reminds us that a much grander spiritual reality is quietly operating behind the scenes.
Just listen to how beautifully peaceful this imagery is. He who made for you the earth a bed, and the sky a ceiling, and sent down from the sky rain. The translation alone is so immensely soothing. It's telling us the earth isn't just a ball of dirt floating in space. It's quite literally a resting place, prepared specifically for you. And the sky? It isn't some terrifying infinite void. It's a protective ceiling. We're constantly being reminded here that we are held, nurtured, and provided for by a creator who intentionally designed the universe to be our welcoming home.
And embracing this realization fundamentally shifts how we view each other. You see, these verses aren't just addressing one specific 7th century tribe. They use the grand, universal phrase, "O mankind." When our approach to the world focuses purely on temporary material gain, well, it naturally leads to division, self-interest, and ultimately isolation. We've all seen that happen. But when we flip the script and recognize a single creator who made this earth a shared resting place for all of us, that instantly fosters deep human unity. It transcends time and geography, giving literally every person alive today a beautifully shared moral purpose.
So how do we actually internalize this in our daily prayers? Well, to truly benefit, we've got to make it a practice. Try this really simple meditative framework during your quiet moments. Step 1, intentionally pause. Just literally disconnect from the digital noise for a minute. Step 2, recite or read these verses, but do it softly and slowly. Let the actual rhythm of the words calm your heart rate down. And step 3, reflect deeply on how these concepts, like mindfulness and trusting the unseen, apply to whatever exact situation you are dealing with right now, today.
So the crucial point here is found in verse 152. So remember me, I will remember you. The staggering beauty of this is the deeply reciprocal relationship it sets up. Just pause and think about that for a second. The creator of the entire cosmos, of the heavens and the earth, is telling you that when you, in all your human smallness, just take a brief moment to remember him, he actively remembers you back. It's an incredibly profound promise of mutual presence, and honestly, it just washes away any lingering feeling of loneliness or insignificance.
Now, let's be real for a minute. Having this connection with the divine definitely doesn't mean life suddenly becomes a walk in the park. Not at all. We are all still going to face modern anxieties, sudden hardships, grief, and those days that just feel entirely overwhelming. The beauty of the text is that it absolutely does not shy away from this harsh reality. Instead, it prepares us for it. It's about finding calm in the storm, teaching us exactly where we need to drop our anchor when things inevitably get rough.
And that anchor is brilliantly captured right here. Seek help through patience and prayer. Think of prayer as your immediate vertical lifeline. It's where you go upward to source your strength. Then patience, or sabr as it's called in Arabic, is how you practically apply that strength moving forward in your day-to-day life. And notice the subtle wording here. It doesn't just say God will reward the patient eventually down the line. It literally says Allah is with the patient. It means your very endurance in those dark, difficult times is exactly the thing that draws the divine presence nearest to you.
That inner peace naturally overflows into how we treat others. The example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain which grows 7 spikes. This serene, visual metaphor beautifully illustrates how goodness actually works in the world. When you act out of pure, mindful intentions, even a single, quiet act of charity blossoms into this massive harvest. It just keeps multiplying and multiplying long after you planted that initial little seed.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we can integrate these ancient lessons right into our modern routines. Because, let's face it, you don't need to quit your job and retreat to a mountaintop to find this kind of peace. Try setting a mindful intention, that taqwa we talked about, before you even start your morning commute. Take a second to just observe the calmness of nature out your window as a physical reminder of the unseen. Try aligning your mindful breathing with a silent recitation in your head. Or challenge yourself to perform just one totally hidden act of charity every single day, and just watch how it transforms your heart over time.
As we reach the very end of Surah Al-Baqarah, we encounter what I think is the ultimate psychological reassurance. Allah does not charge a soul except with its capacity. This is just so deeply comforting. If you are ever feeling like you're completely at your breaking point, you have to remember this verse. The burden you are carrying right now, however incredibly heavy it feels, was perfectly custom measured for your shoulders. You absolutely have the strength for this, even on the days when you are utterly convinced you don't. Let's move to the next part and see how this builds a beautiful framework for actually releasing our burdens. The chapter wraps up with this incredibly powerful collective prayer. It essentially teaches us to boldly admit our human flaws. It's like saying, we hear and we obey, but look, we are fragile, so please do not lay upon us a burden like those before us. It is such a raw admission of our own weakness, but it's wrapped entirely in this complete, unwavering trust of divine mercy. And that trust, that's what allows us to finally put down our heavy baggage and just breathe deeply.
So as we wrap up this explainer on Surah Al-Baqarah, I really want to leave you with a final thought, a question to just sit with today. If you actually paused just for a moment today to intentionally listen to the quiet rhythms of your own life, way beyond the screens, the scrolling, and the schedules, what unseen blessings would you discover? Take that mindfulness with you as you go about your week. Thank you so much for joining me on this meditative journey. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and we'll see you next time.